Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. I am, and we are very happy to welcome you to session number 3. I hope you guys enjoyed the last 2 sessions, and this session is going to be just as insightful and informative. So session 3, TMF, Oversight in a Multi-Vendor Ecosystem. And this is going to be with Steph Viscomi. My name is Kimberly Bruce, Marketing Coordinator at Montreal, and I will be the host for this session. But we have to go over a couple of, or a few housekeeping rules. So remember, you can ask questions at any time. Okay, we encourage it. We would like to get your feedback. This is what TMF Week is all about. It's about learning. So get those questions out there. You can ask your questions in the chat or the Q&A section. There also will be some polls because we want to see, what's going on with you guys. So make sure once we put the poll live that you are able to answer and choose the option that you would like. Questions and answers will be answered at the end of the presentation. So be aware of that. Steph is going to do an awesome job at answering everything that that comes her way. And all the sessions are recorded, as you already know, and if you don't, well, it will be on demand, so you'll have access to them, as well as the PDF, or I should say the PowerPoint slides. All attendees will be receiving certificate of attendance, so that will be coming after the end of TMF week. And don't forget to network. That's what it's all about as well. It's about connecting and making sure that you, rub elbows with colleagues and booth members and so on and so forth. So just make sure that that is done on your end. So a little bit about Steph Viscomi. She's Associate Director of TMF Operations. Steph is an innovation-minded and results-driven clinical research document management professional with 10 years of experience in biopharmaceutical and medical device development, proficient in managing cross-functional teams in matrixed environments. Experience in all stages of development, early phase through post-approval, and across multiple therapeutic areas. Broad-ranging skills in study startup, project management, line management, process improvement, and clinical technology implementation. So she knows her stuff. So without further ado, I'm just going to remove my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to add Steph's wonderful presentation here. Just give me a minute, it is loading. One moment and hold on. Let me just get back to you here. Okay, we are here. Little bit of technical difficulty, but we got it. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. So I will be here and I will be running the slides with you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Hello, everybody. I am really excited to be here today. It's always such an honor to present at these conferences. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Kimberly for helping me out with some technology, moving the slides along, so thank you. Secondly, I do apologize if I sound a little off or raspy. I'm, battling a super fun spring cold. So welcome back to 2021, I guess, in regards to that to colds and whatnot. So here I am today to present on TMF oversight in a multi-vendor ecosystem. Next slide, Kimberly. Kim has already gone through pretty much my bio. I've been on both the CRO and sponsor side. I've actually had over 13 years of experience, 7+ years direct TMF. I've managed global teams and vendors. I've also been in the TMF conference circuit in multiple positions, speaker, instructor, co-chair, advisory board, and so on. I really think it's a bit valuable to understand my current position because it really does speak to where I am today. I manage a multi-level TMF operations team of 12 people with a centralized operating model. Our remit includes, we have 5 CRO partners, 3 different study models. And when I say models, I'm representing the typical CRO and sponsor model, completely outsourced model, and a completely in-source model. And across all of that, we handle over, within 8 TMF systems, over 70 studies. So needless to say, we are a busy team, and I think I have a little insight on how this might all work. So please ask the questions, happy to answer anything as we go. And just a couple shout outs. I do see everybody making some comments on the side. I'd like to, hi Sue, good to see you. Thank you for joining the call today. Really excited. And also those who've said hello. Next slide, please. Just in a disclaimer, these are my views and opinions that I've obtained over the years of being in the TMF industry. These are not direct views of my company, Alexion. Just want to ensure that that is stated here. Next slide. Okay, what we're going to go over today. What is Oversight? What does a multi-vendor ecosystem look like? What are some of the challenges? And then maybe what are some of the successes? And I'll throw in a few pro tips that I think have helped me along the way, and I hope that they help you. Next slide. First poll. What is your organization? Are you from a CRO? Are you from a sponsor? Something else? Kim will release the poll. And Kim, will you be giving us the output of that poll?
Yes, I will.
Awesome.
And they're coming in, so this is pretty cool. Seeing that live, all the numbers popping up here. Oh, okay. I think things are slowing down a little bit. So we're gonna end it in like 5 seconds. So get your answers in. Okay, officially ending poll. I'm gonna show the results. So looks like CRO is at 20.6%, sponsor is at 58.8%, and other 20.6%.
Wonderful. I love it. It's definitely a variation of attendees here. So of course, love to hear from all of you. Next slide, please. If you can click it one more time. For some reason, this slide's a little, there we go. So this is an outsourced TMF strategy approach. Really, it's what I've talked about in the beginning. This is a bit pared down to what I do. So at top, you can see CRO/vendor. There I have 4. So pretend that you have 4 portfolios, maybe 4 CROs that you work with, maybe it's 4 sponsors that you work with. But from that, you have different systems that you have to incorporate on, okay, now I have maybe you have a Montreal system, maybe you have a Viva system, dare I say, maybe you have a Wingspan system, maybe you have multiple actually different eTMF systems. But within each portfolio, maybe that CRO or that sponsor says, you know what, you are going to use my plan, my TMF plan template, and our TMF plan TMF index template, but it's different across each portfolio that you work with. So how do you have oversight across all of that? That can become very challenging. How do you ensure that your processes are being displayed appropriately and you can obtain the information from it and the data? So just, this is kind of, as we go through these slides, something to consider maybe what your current strategy looks like or your approach looks like. Maybe it's not, or maybe you would think this is coming up in your near future. So happy to ask any answer any questions for you. Next slide. Another poll. This is our last poll, I promise. How many vendors and eTMFs do you manage? Do you manage one vendor and one TMF system, or maybe you work with them? Do you work with two or more vendors, but within just one eTMF system? Or do you manage 2 vendors or more, or 2 or more eTMF systems, such as myself?
And poll is live. So we see some answers coming in right now. So remember, guys, go to the top right corner where it says poll. That's where the poll it lives. So just get your answers in there. We're going to run this for another like 10 seconds. So want to make sure to get all those options, all those choices in. Slowing down. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm really excited about this one.
Me too. And we're going to end the poll now. going to show the results. So looks like one vendor, one eTMF system, 21.9%, two vendors and or more, and one eTMF system, 31.3%, and two and more vendors and two or more eTMF system, 46.9%.
Wow, that is awesome. I love the challenge. I think it's fun. So really happy that there's many in the same space as me, because I'm certainly probably going to reach out to a few of you for some tips as well. Okay, next slide, please. What is oversight? Well, you know, let's get to the basics. Really, it's us keeping an eye on things. We need to make sure that, for me as a sponsor, I need to make sure that I am having an eye on performance of my CROs, eye on performance of my internal study teams on the TMF, eye on all the processes within each individual portfolio, but also across. It's really evaluating those trends and issues. And of course, we do not want to forget to document that as well. It's really important to ensure we're documenting our oversight and having those remediation actions. Maybe it's storyboards, maybe it's some other measure. Why is it important? It's an avenue to identify those issues. And course correct as we need prior to the end of the study. We don't want to be doing, as we all know, TMF specialists here, right? We don't want to do it at the end of the study. We want to do it from the beginning. The very moment that study starts up, you already have oversight in place to get in front of those issues. It does provide a really great pathway for sponsor, CRO, vendor engagement and collaboration. Having that oversight in place, you talk about your processes, ensure your alignment, and then being a united front moving forward. Provides data and outputs about TMF health, efficiency, and process areas of improvement. And why is it important to our regulatory authority? Well, they want to know that our studies have data integrity. They want to know that these are important to us and that we are ensuring that our studies are following those guidances, those regulations that are output. So it's really important to them, especially as a sponsor, that we are having those oversight procedures in place or mechanisms and tools. Next slide, please. Multi-vendor ecosystem challenges. Next slide. So I'll be quite transparent. This is some information that I recently pulled from a gap analysis that I did work internally at my company, trying to find out from my internal study teams, like what's going on, what are some of the challenges, where can we improve? So one is process alignment with vendors. One is sometimes we have a challenge. Not every vendor or CRO or sponsor are going to align on your process that you want to have. So how do you tweak it just enough so it's not too far off your processes that you're looking to have? eTMF system equality. Again, working within 8 different systems, not every system is created equal. You could have multiple systems with the same system vendor, but maybe, if I'm a sponsor and I had outsourced all of my studies to 5 different CROs, and those 5 different CROs had the same eTMF vendor, it's still different versions of that vendor. There's that. They may not be able to create it equal. For my case, we have that as well as other system vendors, and we started them quite some time ago, so they might be a bit more archaic and not have things like placeholders. So not everything is created equal here. Also, one particular, if you're an outsourced study, your CRO might say, listen, we only give our sponsors viewer access. But another CRO might say to me, oh, sure, we can give you admin access. So there's that as well. And then, of course, for end users, too many systems. How do you handle the too many systems and ensuring they know how to navigate each and every system? So that's definitely a challenge. And then wrangling in those access requests to make it simple and centralized for your team members. Consistent cross-communication across all vendors is always a challenge. And then ensuring stakeholder education. You want to make that can be a challenge, but there are ways to ensure that's also a success. Next slide. I really love this picture. This one really spoke to me. Multi-vendor ecosystems oversight success. To the left, to me, that was like a plate of spaghetti, and some days that's how I feel in the crazy ecosystem that I have. But in the end, obviously, is this well-knitted ball. I know for me, that's like really every day I strive. How can we just make our entire organization a well-oiled machine and have this tight-knit ball? Obviously, it's never perfect, but at least we're out of this spaghetti plate. So I'm sure a few of you might feel like you're in that spaghetti plate and trying to figure out next steps and how to do some improvement. Next slide. Okay, so this is truth, and I know many of you have, or probably all of you have heard the typical people, processes, and technology. It is so true. You cannot have one without the other for success. But on the same respect, each piece is so unique and valuable on its own, your people, your processes, and your technology. But when you have them work in unison, it certainly can build your foundation of getting to that successful place of compliance for your TMFs and your good TMF health. It really can bring that powerful and operational multi-vendor TMF team. Next slide, please. So let's start with people. We all know that sometimes we're N of 1, which quite transparently, that's where our team started a few years back. Alexion was N of 1, and now we're N of, well, my team alone is, like I said, 12, but we have another systems team. But wherever you fall within the scale of how many people on your team, it's certainly important. But you not only want to talk about your team, people on your, maybe it's your systems vendor team, maybe you're working with your CRO or your sponsor, all of those teams, or your internal study teams. You want to begin to build the foundational relationships with internal and external counterparts. Those are your lifelines. They're the ones that are going to give you feedback on their processes, and those are the ones that are going to give you the baseline of like, this can only happen. So build those relationships. You really want to have a comfortable collaborative relationship with everyone you work with. And we lost the slides. There we go. Building relationships will open and allow a unified process, providing praise, discuss difficult issues, etc. It is very true. Like I said, I work with many CROs, and I have built such amazing relationship with my CRO partners that I can call them up anytime and be like, hi, you know, listen, yesterday we did this amazing thing, but today this is just simply not working. You know, unfortunately it's not on your end. Like, how can we process, improve this, and get over and do some cleanup here? And they're like, you know what, great, let's just work with it. Let's make it happen together. So that unified front is really important. Point of contact. Having that point of contact at each vendor that you do work with is also very valuable, just to pick up that, have that one person that you can go to. So make sure you identify those. Having those regularly scheduled meetings. I think we all kind of roll our eyes when we say more meetings on our calendars. I'm sure anybody on my team could speak to me about my calendar is booked back to back to back, and you know, we want to manage that. But having those meetings on a regular cadence with your partners, your CROs, or your vendors, or whomever it might be, together to make sure you're advancing your portfolios in a process improvement, it's so helpful. And the last but not least, portfolio lead. So my team, we just introduced this new role as part of a couple of my team members' other roles, where I do have, I said I worked with 5 CROs and 3 operating models. Not one person can keep every single little tidbit in their head or be available whenever those questions pop up at all times. So what we've done is we've identified an individual, one for one CRO. They're the point of contact for that portfolio. They're going to know the processes inside and out. They're going to help move the needle forward for improvement. They're the point of contact for study teams if there's a question or concern about what's happening on their the overarching processes within that portfolio. So having that one person to go to is really, really helpful. Next slide. Processes. Processes are so important. I know you guys know this, but how do you make it easy and across your many vendors and your CROs or sponsors? So one, ensure processes are consistent across all portfolios and models to the extent possible. As I said earlier, you may not be able to do it, but how can you tweak it just nice? Maybe it's your oversight process, let me rephrase, your QC process. I know I have a QC process that spans across 8 different systems. But we had to tweak our whole QC process and to do it so it's so consistent that it's not confusing for our internal study teams. It took a few tries to get there, but we made it happen, and we used different tools outside of our system, such as Smartsheets, as a location for our tracking. Templates. If you're a sponsor, for us, before we were totally outsourced and now we're trying to bring some things in-house, we decided to transition all of our TMF plans to our own template. So we have consistency across the board within at least our TMF template. If you're not able to use your own TMF plan template, at least have your consistent language for your processes within your TMF plan templates. That's so huge. The next thing is a program plan. This is something that I've also introduced to my team with my portfolio leads. Is each portfolio we're developing a program plan. It's the soup to nuts and left to right, front to back, all about that portfolio. Roles and responsibilities. What is the eTMF system? What does document upload look like? What are the KPIs for that particular portfolio? What templates are being used? What's communication expectations? Everything you can imagine in regards to TMF in that portfolio, we're putting it into a plan. And we're having our CRO review, ensuring that the language is correct from their side, and everybody's going to sign off. Now, obviously, it will be updated as things change, but it's at least a document that we can say, here you go. Here is what our portfolio looks like in case anybody needs a refresher or to review. Also, that I think another great idea is a TMF operations manual. So for instance, I have a larger TMF team, which is wonderful, but when you have so many people or new people onboarding, or maybe some external people are like, I don't understand what's going on with your team. Well, no problem. Here's what that my team overarching looks like, so which is inclusive of all those portfolios. Just a manual of some guidances and where to identify some other information. Part of my is like we have SOPs, and obviously we have timeliness for document upload, so that's referenced in there. We have timeliness in regards to creating our version 1 of TMF plans and TMF index. That's in there. So tracking all of that information in one spot for my overall team is really useful. Next slide, please. Technology. Like I said, multiple systems certainly can be challenging, but just a few key things. one, know your eTMF capabilities and features for each system, even if it's high level. How's it configured? Does it have placeholders? How are documents uploaded? I know I have one particular portfolio that we have to upload it into one system, and then the CRO uploads it into their eTMF, so it's almost like a staging area. So I know that. Is it drag and drop, batch, native format? How can QCs be completed in system? Is that a possibility? What does EDL, expected document list process, and oversight look like? What are the reporting capabilities? And do you have access to use those reports? That's very important, because I know personally on some systems I do and some systems I don't. Where you have multiple systems, how do the processes differ? Document upload, QC, understanding the completeness reporting aspects. How does access set up for each TMF? How is that different? Who owns and drives that process? And what consistent reports and data can be pulled from the systems? For instance, I know I have a challenge of how can I pull the same exact timeliness measure across all of 8 of my systems. Some I can do it myself, some I have to request from the CRO directly. Some I might have to have an admin on my team go in and take care of that. So just knowing kind of the high level information about each of your systems will take you to that next step of being more consistent. Next slide. Okay, pro tips. Being that I've been doing this for a little while, wanted to give some helpful hints that I certainly have felt have helped me along the way. Next slide. TMF cheerleaders. Kind of wish I did the slide in blue. TMF cheerleaders are so important and valuable. These are people within your organization that will help you, that will support your TMF goals, and they will also support that positive TMF culture. Those could be maybe their peers, maybe their colleagues, people on your team, maybe it's your direct leadership, maybe it's your senior leadership. So for me, I am incredibly lucky. I have multitudes of TMF cheerleaders at Alexion. One, we have a TMF governance meeting. It's our senior leaderships of all of our functions sit on a quarterly meeting, and I say, okay, I need a little help here. Maybe compliance wasn't the best this month, or rah, we had super awesome compliance. Please let your teams know that we're giving them a high five. So we have that high level governance for those functions. Talking about, also we get a lot of process approvals from them, or maybe we're talking about introducing a new escalation pathway and we want their approval as well. There's many different forms. So it's really another form of engagement, so they know there's no surprise when it comes from the TMF if there's a concern. I also have a TMF core team. This is a next level down. This is more of our functional SMEs, so those contributor level people who work day in and day out. It's a great way to bring your TMF operations team and every single function all in one room to make it consistent, to spread the same message. You're no longer playing that telephone game. The only thing is you're asking them to cascade some information. So one thing I do use is I introduce metrics on that team. I provide them upcoming QC information. I also really value their feedback. It's so important to ensure that I'm listening to them. When and why are they supporting TMF? At all times. It's not only when inspection happens or on the horizon. We want to ensure that we're working to change that culture, and they're doing it with us. It is so important to educate your cheerleaders on your TMF goals, on your TMF complex ecosystem, so they understand where you're coming from and what challenges you're facing and how they can support you. And also just so they're cascading the appropriate information to the teams. Next slide, please. History. It is really, to me, I've always been, recently for me, I've noticed, I'm so forward thinking, trying to do the next best thing for my team, getting them to move that needle forward. But hey, it's so important to know that history of your portfolios before you walked in the door, because a lot happened then, and you may have to answer to that in an inspection at some point in time. So a couple small things. What has worked and what didn't work in the past? What was planned and didn't get accomplished? Maybe you can do that now. What are some of the issues that your teams came across in the past? Was there ever an inspection and there's findings that you could take a look at, or an audit that happened that you could read an audit report? Again, what are the challenges and the successes? Talk to those stakeholders, talk to the functions, like those people that actually do the work every single day. Ask them, what's happened? In the past when I wasn't here, what could be better, and what should we totally avoid? I've actually done this a few times, and it is so interesting what people want to say or how they feel about TMF, and how you can maybe persuade them to say, you know what, I'm going to help you make it not so bad. I'm here to take your feedback. Next slide, please. Education and feedback. I think this is really coming all to fruition if you're getting the stream of everything here. As I said before, engage those stakeholders, leadership, contributors, internal, external, bring them all in, encourage for them their feedback to come to you, ask for their suggestions, ask for their ideas. It's so helpful to hear a perspective from outside of your TMF world. Educate them. The more you educate them, the more they're going to be your TMF support cheerleaders. The more they're going to be like, you know what, I want to help you bring that consistency across all the portfolios. I want to help you and your team be successful in this pathway. You know, another thing you could do that we've also done, a couple of things, is have knowledge sessions with folks. You know, I get you have 8 systems, and maybe you have 8 different types of systems in like a clinical environment, a clinical systems. Maybe you have a RIM, maybe you have a quality, maybe you have a CTMS, maybe you have an eTMF, and they're all under the same vendor, and people are getting confused. Educate them. It is so important. I cannot specify that enough. Another great thing is create an e-learning. If your company is able to do so, there's vendors out there that you can work with. We just created an e-learning series for our team, for our organization, for people to know more about TMF. Right now, we just did it on our SOP and our work instruction. We also did foundations of TMF 101. Why is it important? And oh, by the way, what are some of the consequences if we don't do our TMFs on time? And it was funny, it was cartoony, and it had people kind of telling the storyline as they went through it. So very engaging. It pulls people in. You might be surprised how many people that work on your studies that they don't know the basics of TMF, or they may not even know what a TMF is and what the value add is. So you really want to work. And of course, enhance those processes from the feedback you're getting, from the suggestions. And I've said this before in conferences, when you're utilizing those folks' feedback or their suggestions, make sure you give them a little pat on the back. I think that's super helpful, because these are the folks that are going to make that cross-portfolio consistency so much better. Next slide, please. Okay, to me, this is number one. As the central, I head up TMF operations. It's like some days I literally feel like I have 1,000 balls in the air. So many different things going on, from portfolio level to study level to my whole team level to you name it, whatever level, initiatives, everything is going on. And some days are like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do next. So 3 important things: organization, project management, and communication skills. So important. One, how do you stay organized? I will not lie. I am a pen and paper kind of person. I have to-do lists. I have one right next to me that I could probably hold up and show you a very lengthy to-do list, handwritten, but that's what works for me. Some people love OneNote. Some people love sticky notes. Maybe it's Outlook. Maybe it's using your calendar, but how do you stay organized? Because that will bring you ease as you're creating that oversight across the board. You know your next steps, and you know what's a priority. Information and task manager are really extremely important skills to sharpen. Knowing your information and how to, like I said before, tasks, prioritize all those tasks along the line, and then also ensuring you're prioritizing and using, you're not utilizing too much time. I know in my world I have many moving parts, as I said before, but what's most important today that I have to work on? What's important tomorrow? Can something be pushed? Someone may think in their own little bubble that what they have going on is so important right now, but reality, maybe that can wait till tomorrow. So it's okay to say that. So time management is so huge when you're creating this cross consistency of portfolio development. Communication is everything. I cannot stress this more. And I stress this with my team, I think, on a daily basis. I have said to them so many times, educate, talk with your study teams, talk with your vendors, get the information out to them, but make sure you are absolutely communicating with them. The more you communicate, the more information comes in and goes out, and it really does make a world of difference when you're starting to build out all those portfolio oversight. And of course, project management. Oversight of a multi-vendor ecosystem is all about managing those projects. Strong communication, time and project management skills mixed with TMF knowledge are are serious drivers of success. I know many people on this call right now. I see many names that I recognize, so I'm really excited for that. Use your knowledge, educate people, communicate with people, but also, sometimes you have to, project manage each little portfolio initiative things that you're going on will definitely build you into being very successful within your cross multi-vendor ecosystem. Next slide. Great, so I'm really excited. I did this in a timely manner. I've left some time for questions. Before we do go to any questions that you guys might have, I just want to say, listen, if you want to connect more with me on questions off, you think of something afterwards, please, LinkedIn, I'm on there. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I really love to share education or knowledge that I have and that I've obtained, and also, of course, I've always been reaching out to my folks as well. So is there any questions that I can answer for anybody?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Steph. That was amazing. Love the fact that you kind of like were talking about the whole got to communicate and educate. Don't work in silos. It doesn't help at all, right? So, and project management. So it was really great discussion. And yes, we do have questions, clearly. I'm just going to get into that. So we have one here. Was it a challenge to work with multiple vendors, CROs during COVID-19 pandemic?
That's a really great question. I don't think COVID really played a factor in that for me. Whether I was here at home or in the office, it didn't make a difference. I mean, I'm still on the phone, I'm still having meetings. I definitely miss being in the office with my colleagues, but I don't think it played a difference. Everybody was on the same playing field. I think, honestly, it made our relationship stronger, and we got a lot more done.
Okay, perfect. Next question was, how confident are you that you have what you need from vendors at the end of the day? How do you measure that confidence? That's a very good question too. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great question. It could depend on the vendor. How confident at the end of the day? I'll be honest with you. I'm finally at a point that I feel very confident that we're getting what we need from all of our vendors. And I think a big piece of that is because we built those relationships with those vendors, and we can be open and transparent with them about concerns that we're having or getting strategy and being unified versus us versus them. Like, I've never been that kind of person and never wanted to lead my group in that direction. Now, I think the second half of that was, how do I know?
Yeah.
I think it's just going back to my to-do list. Sometimes I'm very super confident, like, oh, great, they sent this in on time like they said, or wait, they keep on pushing this timeline out. What's going on here? And it's also managing that. We have some portfolios that are really complex, and sometimes you could feel the energy of that other, your point of contact over there. Just how can I help? I always say, how can I help you? Because this is not just about, we're here together to make this happen. So it's a balance. It's not every day.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next question here. Just curious, how did your SOP evolve in terms of the level of detail around oversight, i.e. SOPs or QMS refer to a generic risk-based approach, and you put the details in the individual CRO study TMF plan. Sorry if I butchered that, but like that was basically.
I think I get the drift.
Okay. So
good. From an SOP point of view, work instruction, we did everything to not make it too detailed because we know the details are going to be in the TMF plans. We wanted to make sure that we were covering from a sponsor perspective, obviously oversight. So that was huge. Ensuring, all of the stakeholders from an Alexion point of view were identified as needed. As we were going through this process, our organization was changing. We're getting new teams. So that was very interesting too. So pulling in those stakeholders. The portfolio and study specific, we really worked to ensure that the TMF plans specify that information, but also did connect very well with our SOP and work instruction.
Okay, perfect. Next question, I think we have time for one more. Do you have an in-house TMF system, and are you waiting until closeout to migrate your studies back in-house from the CRO, or will they send back paper docs at the end of the study? Do you have a team to audit the docs once they are back in-house?
Great question. So there's multiple parts to that question. Number one, do we have an in-house eTMF? Yes, we do. We actually just implemented one. It went live in January. Very exciting for our team. That was a big step for Alexion. We actually decided that we were only starting new studies up in that system, and the remaining studies, which is about 65 studies, are staying as is for now. So we have no plans to migrate. And I know that some people are like, wait, what? You're going to remain within systems? And I hear that internally. Yes, the organization as of today have decided to move forward with that strategy. From my point of view, I kind of don't mind it because it gives it a good challenge. It keeps things going. And there was one more part of that question I can't remember.
Okay, I'm just going to go back. Are you waiting for close-up to migrate to the studies from CR? So I'm just going to read that out again. Do you have an in-house TMF system, or are you waiting until closeout to migrate your studies back in-house from the CRO, or will they send back paper docs at the end of the study?
Oh, and do we have someone to QC those paper documents?
Yeah.
So we are really lucky. One of the things we did was, if there's any paper, or even if there's an outsourced eTMF system, at the close of a study, we have an archivist, and we also have our own archive. So we do have a process of which everything is shuffled through that individual or that team. And they go in and they do this whole archive. Do they do any QCs afterwards, as after it's been close out? No, because we want to be mindful of archiving versus migration. This is something that actually just happened the other day to us. We were trying to consider how we're going to close out a study, and well, they said if you transition it from one system to the e-archive, and then you do a QC of that, that's going to be considered, it could be considered migration by an inspector. And I was like, that's an interesting thought process. So you may want to do any kind of closeout QC or quality check prior to closing out your TMF, and then putting it into whatever process you have. The paper itself, I'll be honest with you, we haven't handled much paper in the recent months, which is great. It's still floating out there, but we do bring the boxes in, and sometimes there's a spot check done. It's really kind of on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, perfect. I want to thank you, Steph. I know that there are a couple of more questions, but we are out of time at this point. So I'm just wanted to say again, this was absolutely amazing. I know I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else did as well. And definitely that love the takeaways from your presentation.
Thank you.
It's very much like group effort, and don't work a silo. Absolutely.
It is no silos, it's all group effort. And thank you everybody, and big thank you to Kimberly for helping me out today with running the slides. Please send me your questions on LinkedIn, happy to answer them.
Absolutely. So just to recap, the next session is going to be the final session, which will be the day 3 panel, data-driven deliverables, the D3 sponsor oversight. So that's going to be a very interesting and informative panel discussion as well. And just so that you know, it's time for networking break. So this is what, like I said, this is what it's all about. It's about meeting like your peers and just having connection, right? And just learning from each other. So head on over to the lounge and get to talking. So just wanted to say thank you once more, Steph. Very great presentation, and hopefully we'll see you guys there in the lounge. So
thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.